Hi, everyone. Tanya Hertz here, and we're going to talk a little bit tonight about about teams, and we're going to look particularly closely at team development stages. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And since the camera seems to be really grainy, I'll go ahead and turn that off. And we are looking at team development stages, and most successful teams go through 5 stages. And those stages are, as listed here: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And each of these stages are seen in almost every successful team. In the beginning stages, the forming stages, they're just getting to know one another, the team members. They're introducing and describing what they know, what they can bring to the table. And it's usually a very polite sort of time in a team. Now, storming is when it gets a lot less polite. Members start to be more honest in their communication, and they can really, at this point, have a lot of storming, a lot of power struggles, and a lot of figuring out who's doing what, and what sort of things people are bringing to the table, and whether or not the personalities mesh. And it's just it's a very tumultuous time in a team development, and that's why the name storming. Now, norming is when people start to normalize, and they start to realize that they can't keep those original ideas that they had when they came to the team, and they're going to have to give a little, right? They're going to have to give a little if they want to move forward and progress with the team. And so they'll give up on some of those things very often that they were fighting about, and compromise so that they can get to that final goal development and success. And that success happens in the performing stage, right? The team works together. They have now developed a shared mission statement and purpose, and they're focusing on achieving their goals. They're flexible in their ideas and their beliefs, and they've gone through that norming stage, and they understand who's doing what, and they're trusting one another to actually get that done. And they're performing, right? They're performing. They're each doing what they should be doing. And it's important also to realize this 5th and final step in any team development model, and it's called the adjourning stage. And the reason why I believe it's very important to recognize is when you have an effective team, a team that was working well together for any length of time, you really get to know one another, right? You really are reliant upon each other. There's emotions involved, and it's important that you have a chance to kind of decompress afterwards, and see what worked and what didn't, and pat each other on the back. And now, if it's a short-lived team, it's not maybe as important, but when it's a team that's been working together for any length of time, it's really important that you do this. Just like in a movie, you wouldn't end the Batman movie with the fight scene and Batman wins the day and it's over, right? You need that sort of normalization period afterwards to kind of transition to whatever comes next. All right. So again, most of those high performing teams that are successful, go through these 5 stages. And you can see here, team effectiveness is compared with that performance impact. And this is very, very normal curve for that team development. All right, forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Now, there is another model of team development that is important to recognize as well, and that's the model of punctuated equilibrium. And even though teams that form very well or that perform rather very well and go through all 5 stages of the development process, very often also go through the punctuated equilibrium model. And that model basically states that when we are, right after we form a team, there's a certain level of inertia that comes along with the territory. So we figure everything out. We go through the storming phase. We get into the norming phase, and then we just sort of coast. And usually, somewhere about the midpoint of any project, or maybe a week or two, if it's a month-long project, a week or two into it, we realize, wow, we need to change something. And that's that punctuated equilibrium mark, the midpoint of the project, where we realize if we do not revise our process, we are going to fail. And so we do that, we revise the process, and then there's a certain amount of inertia that goes back into a place while we are just doing what we need to be doing, each of us fulfilling our roles and our obligations, to where we get to then the end of the project and hopefully success and in the project outcome. And teams that don't have some sort of a change in the punctuated equilibrium part of the process very often don't have success in the overall project.